Okay, we're having another episode of Kick Out of Two Sports Talk with Gary. I'm Nick. I'm joined here by Gary. How you doing, Gary?
Hey Nick, how are you?
I am well. I mean, you know how I'm doing. Obviously, technical difficulties get me a little flustered, so um, we can get into that. But I really want to check with you. Do you want to you wanna talk about like current events or anything?
No, I want to talk sports.
Okay, that's probably safer. That's probably a better idea. Okay, let's talk about sports. I know you came in guns a blazing when we met a little bit ago about today's podcast. So let's hit me over the head with it, man. Where do you want to go first?
Oh, here's the bottom line. NFL free agency essentially starts in 3 days. Starts on Monday. That's the tampering period, and you're going to see a lot of deals go down on Monday, and then it officially starts on Wednesday. There's no quiet season in the NFL because we got free agency starting next week, Nick, and then before you know, we'll be talking draft in April. Um, having said that, the biggest thing on my mind, if we're going to talk Eagles here, is what potentially will they do in free agency, especially that first week and including today, because really you got today, you got Saturday, and you got Sunday. You got 3 days, Nick, 3 days to essentially extend a Dallas Goddard, potentially a Jalen Phillips. I don't think they're gonna. I think Nakobe Dean is gone, but we'll see. But essentially, you get 3 days because everything kicks off on Monday, and that's when agents could start talking to teams. So that's the first thing I'm really looking at today. And Howie Roseman has done this before. Will he make any deals? Will he come to an agreement with any of these free agents before Monday?
That is the question. And you bring up a really good point. This is why I love the NFL. This is why I love the NFL more than I love the NBA, Major League Baseball, not just because of the sport. It it is because of the sport, but I love the fact that their season starts effectively 1 month after the previous season ends, right? They go
Yep.
from the Super Bowl at the beginning of February, and now it's the beginning of March, and we're gonna have the beginning of the season where you talk about trades and tampering and do I know what all that means? No. But do I still enjoy it? I do. And I have been unfortunately listening to our local talking heads and the internet talking about what they think is going on with all this. And I have a pretty unique perspective on what I think is going to go on in free agency. So um, I think you're right, unfortunately, that N'Kobe Dean is out of here. I think a team like Dallas is going to offer him way too much money to say no to. The Eagles just,
Yep.
they've historically not been they've not prioritized the linebacker position. So they're not going to put that much money into Zach Bond and then N'Kobe Dean when they have so many other guys to pay and to keep. And Brian brought up a good Brian and I were having pizza at Nino's the other day. Shout out to Nino's too, Garrett. Plus my girl Margaret over at Nino's apparently is not doing too hot. Apparently she has fallen ill. And so we need everybody, the Kick Out of Two community, to maybe go over to Nino's, get an extra slice, spend a couple extra bucks, and hopefully help out. I'm sure she's well
Yeah,
taken
we
care of.
we
But
wish her the best. We
yeah,
wish her the best.
we need Margaret back. Brian and I went over fully expecting to like have a full on throwdown with Margaret verbally, like joking about pizza and letting her yell at us because we like being
Yeah.
yelled at by women. And so, uh, Brian was saying that not only are they not really interested in giving N'Kobe Dean this big contract when they have so many big contracts, he's like, but they're never going to get a full season out of the guy, and they know that. And so you have to find a team that makes those kind of rash decisions, and Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys are just that team to make a rash decision on a guy who is great when he's there, but N'Kobe Dean is missing the best ability, and that's availability. And when he's not going to be there every week, he can't have that impact that he has when he's there because he's an impactful player. He's so fun to watch. He's all over the field. He brings energy. He brings, you know, youth and the fact that he sat for almost a full year before playing, I think brought him into the game mentally better. Like, I think he's a tremendous player,
Eh,
but if he's not there, he can't be that tremendous player.
Yeah, and Nick, the thing with Nakobe Dean is you hit it, right? Like he's great when he plays, but Nakobe Dean's future may have been decided last year on draft night when they chose Jahad Campbell, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, Jahad Campbell essentially, at least right now, um, plays the same position. When he played, he was well, and I love Nakobe Dean, but again, you only have, to use Danino's reference, right? You only have so much pizza to go around. You only have so much money to go around. So I think, much like we saw last year, not that Nakobe Dean's going to get this kind of money, but like with Josh Sweat, with Milton Williams, I do think Nakobe Dean will be gone. Now, having said that, the reason why I'm so locked into these next 3 days to see if Howie makes a move is because last year at this time, right before free agency kicked off, uh, we were concerned that the Eagles were going to lose Zach Bond, and Zach Bond was I mean, we're going to take a trip down memory lane a little later here and talk about some names that they got in free agency over the years and what our recollections and memories were when they got them. But Zach Bond was tremendous for the Eagles. It was only a 1 year deal. And then everybody had a fear, if you're an Eagles fan, that Zach Bond was going to have a huge market and they were going to lose him. And Zach Bond was tremendous for the Eagles the 1 year he played. And then Howie was able to extend him right before free agency kicked off. And might have been the Eagles' top priority in free agency was to, they extended Zach Bond, and we're going to see if that's going to be similar or not with Jalen Phillips. I mean, maybe they extend. There seems to be talk or rumblings that they want to extend Jalen Phillips. We're going to see if it happens this weekend, because if he hits the market, I mean, he could go somewhere else too. I've seen Washington mentioned for Jalen Phillips.
Yeah.
You got to be again, any of these teams, Nick. I say any of these teams that have quarterbacks on rookie contracts, they should have more money than teams like the Eagles and the Chiefs and just other teams,
Yeah.
who are paying the quarterback. If you're a team like the Patriots, where you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, in theory, you should have more money. The Bears should have more money. So you have to be concerned about those teams.
Sure. And you probably have to be concerned again now with a team like Arizona, who's going to drop Kyler Murray and
Yeah.
free up a ton of space to go and do whatever they need to do. So I think you're right. So when it comes to a guy like Jalen Phillips, are you ready to get into Jalen Phillips talk? Is that where we're at now?
Sure.
So
Sure.
here's my feeling about how the Eagles handle free agency, and I don't know that anybody else has really noticed this because I don't hear it, is when the Eagles organization, when people within the organization start putting out tweets and talking about certain players, like Lane Johnson
Mm.
put out a tweet or something with just like the big eyeballs about Max Crosby, and he tagged Max Crosby in it. And I'm sure Lane Johnson wants Max Crosby on the Eagles for two reasons. One, he's a tremendous player. And two, Lane Johnson doesn't want to play opposite him because Lane Johnson's getting older. Max Crosby's a maniac. Uh, but when those things happen, when those little leaks happen, that is a smokescreen. That's a smokescreen.
I agree.
Obviously,
I agree.
we're making calls on the guy. If they're going to give him away for a bag of nickels, we'll take him. But
Right.
when it comes to Jalen Phillips, I think they're going to extend the guy. This is a guy and I think last week I even said they weren't. No, yeah, I said he was gone, but I think I'm wrong. Vic Fangio specifically picked this guy up. There were other defensive ends out there that were gettable, that were attainable. They went with Jalen Phillips, and he had an impact. Now, was he lighting the world on fire? Not necessarily, but I think he's the right fit for what they're doing on this D line. And to know that information and then not keep the guy is a mistake. So what you have is Jalen Phillips is going to command a decent chunk of money. However, if you extend him, you can get him for less than he would get on the market. And if you went out and got a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby or what's the guy from Cincinnati? Ty
Hendrickson.
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 If you went and got any of these guys, I think Hendrickson's probably the most comparable to Jalen Phillips. You're still going to have to pay that guy. So if you get a D end in free agency, you're going to have to pay him. So you're paying a guy either way. Jalen Phillips is already here. He's already kind of near the building. You can call the guy and make something work now ahead of him hitting the market. So probably get a little bit of a hometown discount, bring the guy in, and keep all your draft picks. So as time moves forward, and you see they're probably not keeping Dean, but you're not going to draft a guy that's they're not going to draft a DN in the first round at 23 that's going to come in and make an immediate impact. So your option is
Yeah,
Jalen Phillips or spend way more plus future picks on another guy, which is a problem.
and
So
here's the thing, Nick. Here's the thing too. When they made that trade for Jalen Phillips, his first game was an Eagle, was on the road against the Packers. First game,
yeah,
and he was tremendous. And he was really tremendous for them since they got him. Like, he was a big part of that defense. And then I've heard people say, well, he kind of, he faltered down the stretch, or he disappeared in the, where was he in the playoff game? I've heard that say.
yeah,
Um, Quite honestly, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but a really contributor to the podcast here, Brian Dwyer. I don't think he was a big Jalen Phillips fan towards the end of the year.
yep,
But here's the thing with Jalen Phillips that fits kind of the Eagles' profile. He's on the line, defensive end. He's young. He has experience with Fangio, and the thing is, you know, defensive ends, Nick, they love to pin their ears back. They love to get after the quarterback,
yeah,
and you really do that when you're playing with a lead. And because the Eagles' offense was so bad last year, they really never played with that lead. And the Eagles love to keep guys that they have in the building. So, like I said, if they keep Jalen Phillips, I am totally fine with that. I'm interested to see where the money would come in if they keep Jalen Phillips and what's the trickle down effect. But we know Fangio really likes him. They obviously traded for him. And then you do have to keep in mind that, like, okay, like, if this is Vic's last year, if this is Fangio's last year as the D coordinator, what does that say for Jalen Phillips kind of down the road too? So, maybe it's a 1-year deal, but I just know, you know, it just seems like they really want to keep Jalen Phillips. And when they're really committed to keeping somebody, they tend to do that.
yeah.
However, Nick, you did make a comment earlier, you
Uh-oh.
know, the Eagles, I feel, and you mentioned about the smoke screen in general as we hit free agency, you're going to hear a lot of smoke screen stuff,
Yeah,
but like, when everybody thinks the Eagles are taking a right-hand turn, Howie Roseman takes the left-hand turn, right? So it just seems to me that when the Eagles make their biggest signings, it kind of comes out of nowhere.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, I
so
say that
so
too because
you know,
like 2 years ago or last year, there was always speculation among fans about Saquon Barkley, but there was nothing really from the organization, and then boom, it happens. Right back in
right,
and we're gonna
right,
get into this more, but, like, I remember several years ago now, we were dying for defense for cornerbacks. We were dying, and we were all screaming about going to get the top name there. And if we didn't get the top name, we wanted the second top name in free agency. And the Eagles went out and got both, right? With Asamoah and Rogers Cromartie, right? They got them like on the same day or
yeah,
2
well, yeah.
days apart.
So,
And like,
yeah, Rogers Cromartie was a trade. They traded Kevin Cobb to Arizona for
yeah,
Rogers Cromartie. But yeah, that's where they loaded up in the secondary.
right. And we'll get into, I'm sure that's one of the points you're going to bring up later on, you know, past free agent signings and how it worked out. Like, but the news that day, we were like celebrating in the streets. We are like, we can't believe we did that. We can't believe how we made it happen. And because it wasn't leaked out through the league and through news outlets and sources, that's when Howie makes these moves. So Howie is sitting in a room being quiet about what he's doing. Everybody else is kind of doing their thing and like, yeah, speculation happens how it happens. But I don't think Max Crosby's happening because of all the speculation. Myles Garrett is never going to happen. It's never going to that they're never going to give up what Cleveland wants for that guy. But the guy you have in house that they like, better. Everybody talks about AJ Brown in the locker room, but you don't know how Trey Hendrickson is in the locker room. He could be a complete asshole. Jalen Phillips, his skill level and how he fits. You know how he gets along with everybody in the locker room. That means a lot. I think to the Eagles at least. I don't know if it means a lot to other teams. It doesn't seem like it does, especially for like Dallas and Vegas. They don't seem to give a shit about who they bring in, their attitudes and any of that. So I think it's really important. I think they'll end up signing Phillips to a deal. Howie will work some magic so he can kinda, get out of a lot of salary with bonuses and incentives, and I think Phillips is a young enough player to go along with that.
Yeah, and yeah, going back to Crosby, like I'm hearing things like, well, if they trade for Crosby, you got to give up your first round pick and either Nolan Smith or a Jalix Hunt. And I just, again, look, every time we think the Eagles make a right hand turn, Howie makes that left hand turn. So
Yeah.
maybe they make that trade for Crosby, but I just don't see it. I think in Howie's mind, I'm not saying he wouldn't make a big splash trade because he would if he seems it necessary, but like I think in his mind, like they really like Nolan Smith. Like Nolan
Yeah.
Smith was a huge part of that Super Bowl run in the playoffs when they won the Super Bowl. Nolan Smith was amazing in that playoff run. And Jalen Hunt had a good year this year, and he just continues to get better. So I think Howie's top priority is trying to extend those young, talented guys on defense, like a Nolan Smith and a Jalen Hunt. And we'll see. It's gonna be but again, if we get to Monday and they don't extend Jalen Phillips and he hits the market, maybe he stays in Philly. But again, once these guys start hitting the market, once these agents start talking to teams, Nick, money gets thrown around and
Yeah.
it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah, and that's when you really hit times where, like, teams throw wild numbers out at these guys, and I get why they take the deal. I mean, it's crazy money, but this guy is the type of guy that's, like, still willing to kind of bet on himself. Like, he doesn't need to make that like, I don't think this is his last big contract. So, I think he could sign, like, a 3-year deal with a bunch of incentives, and I think then that's a home team advantage right there. That's where the Eagles can really um, strike while the iron's hot. They have to strike with him, and if they wanna keep Goddard, they have to do that before he hits the market too, because Goddard is a difference maker. Despite the fact that he's, starting to get a little injury prone, he's still like, when he's on the field, he's a difference maker, and teams will throw money at him. So they need to do something today, not so much Monday, because Monday, teams are gonna
Well,
start talking numbers.
right. And the difficult thing with Goddard was like so last year Goddard was a free agent, and then everybody reported that he was looking to go elsewhere, and then Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts made the phone call to him, and they talked, and Jalen Hurts stressed to him the importance of what he was to that team.
Yeah.
But Goddard's coming off this year; he's coming off a much bigger year for him from a stat standpoint. And, he might just get a really big deal. What the now at tight end, Nick, what the Eagles can do here, I hate to say this, but it's a possibility. Maybe Goddard just goes elsewhere because the Eagles can't match that money he's gonna get on the open market. I get that.
Yeah.
And then maybe the Eagles, sign Zach Ertz to a 1-year deal and then they used the first or second round pick on a tight end, something like that.
Yeah.
There's also been rumors that, the Eagles could be interested in like a David Njoku, right? So you also have
Mhm.
to see, there could be a tight end out there that has some ties to Sean Mannion, right? Like a couple years ago, the Eagles signed Zach Pascal because Nick Sirianni loved Zach Pascal.
I
So,
did too.
and that's the concern
I
with
loved him I loved him
and
coming out of
that's,
college, so I get it. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
and
you're right, like,
that's the concern with that's,
yeah,
but
I don't
one
mind
last
the
thing, that's the concern
yeah,
with Nakobe Dean.
mhm. Oh, yeah, oh,
Because of the Cowboys' new DC,
yep,
knows
knows
Nakobe
him.
Dean, knows Blankenship, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I d right, Dallas isn't gonna go after both. I can definitely see them making a move for Nakobe Dean. They are still trying to dig themselves out of the hole of losing Micah Parsons when they've spent so much in draft capital and money on guys. They should have just kept Micah Parsons. Like
And well,
like
and Nick, let's not forget this when it comes to when it comes to the Cowboys, it's not like the Cowboys have the most money to spend in free agency.
right?
I mean, they just tagged George Pickens.
I know.
You would think
Mistake.
they want to extend George Pickens. So like you got to think like the Eagles would, potentially Jalen Phillips, like
Yeah,
George Pickens is at the top of their priority list, you would think. Although you
yeah.
never know what the Cowboys what they're thinking.
You know, that
So,
that
I
Jerry
mean, we'll see.
Jones that Jerry Jones loves that franchise tag, and players hate it. They hate it.
Yeah, I
And
hate it. I
and
hate it.
it's almost when you franchise tag somebody, it is almost the sign that you're not gonna be there the next year. And
Yeah.
so I think what that did is Jerry Jones just stopped Pickens from going to the Eagles, essentially. Like,
And
seeing that the Eagles
when
aren't
I
gonna
think of the yeah, and when I think of a franchise tag with the Eagles now, as far as I can remember, they really don't use that franchise tag anymore. And I just remember back it was, going I think it was at the end of 2001 in that offseason, so the Eagles lose to the Rams, Nick, they lose to the Rams, and then they use that franchise tag on Jeremiah Trotter Ju or I'm s not Junior, but Jeremiah Trotter.
Mhm.
And he was the story as I read it was he was absolutely disgusted, went into Andy Reid's office furious that he got franchise tagged,
Yeah.
and to the where the Eagles just ended up releasing him. So
Yeah.
they released him, and he went to Washington, and Nick will never they lose that game to Tampa Bay, the 2002 NFC title game at the Vet.
Mhm.
Joe Jaravicious running down the sidelines, Blaine Bishop trying to get him, and he had a bad leg. I mean, that was the one weakness they had on defense. Like they tried Levon Kirkland, they had Barry Gardner. It's
Oh.
got they had this potpourri of linebackers, and you wonder if they had a Jeremiah Trotter, maybe they go to the Super Bowl that year. Maybe that Jaravicious play never happens against Tampa, and
Oh.
that's why when the Eagles had the opportunity that's why they went and got Trotter 2 years later when Trotter would end up he'd get hurt in Washington.
Yep.
He because of that injury, he got cut by Washington, and then he came back to the Eagles. And I credit Andy Reid because even though there was bad blood with that franchise tag, when Trotter got hurt in Washington, Andy Reid was the first one apparently to reach out to him, see, "Hey, how you doing? We're praying for you. We're thinking of you." And then, they kept that communication open, and then he came back to Philadelphia and made a difference that Super Bowl year when they beat Atlanta and they played the Patriots down in Jacksonville. So, but yeah, the Eagles really don't seem to use that franchise tag much anymore.
No, I think it's smart. Um, yeah, so, I mean, I'm really excited to see what kinda shakes out, beginning of next week. I don't think you'll have to wait long for news about a lot of these guys, so I'm hoping by Monday morning, you could start a fresh news week with some news about the Eagles and who they're keeping, um, and I hope it includes I
Or
hope
who's coming, or
yeah,
who's
who's coming.
coming,
I actually
who's
like
coming.
I like the idea of Zach Ertz coming back. That actually I mean, if you get Zach Ertz on a one-year deal, does that make it easier to keep a guy like Dallas Goedert? Like, Zach Ertz is not gonna command, a big time long-term contract, right? He's gonna take a one-year deal. It's a retirement year. Does he take,
Yep.
a veteran minimum so that they can bring back Goddard and run this and, try to run back that duo?
Well, if they bring in Zach Ertz, there's no way they're bringing back Goddard. I mean, if they bring in Zach Ertz, like you said, it's a 1-year deal. It's a veteran minimum, so it's cap friendly. They want to make sure he could still play, obviously, and
Right.
I'm sure he can. Um, and so if they bring him in, it's basically because we think he could still play. It's
Yeah.
a cap friendly deal, and basically you're here to teach the heir apparent, like where you're gonna they would maybe draft somebody in, maybe the second round. And supposedly
Yeah.
this tight end class for the draft, and we'll get into that in April, is supposed to be pretty good. So
Yeah.
it would be Zach Ertz coming in on a 1-year deal, and then it would be, somebody that they're gonna draft if that were
Okay.
the case, I would think.
Okay. So then, I mean, they're not gonna take a guy in the first round at tight end. They don't do that. That's not they've got 5
And
positions
then
they
just
take in the
keep an
first
eye
round.
and if Goddard leaves, I would just keep an eye on David Njoku.
Yeah, that's another name I've heard kinda thrown around. I wouldn't mind it, like, he's a capable player. I don't he's not lighting the world on fire. But all these offensive ideas are sitting on the back of what Sean Mannion's putting out there. You have no idea what this offense is gonna look like in August.
No.
Like, you just have no idea. There's
And
I have nothing
and
to
and
base it
I
on.
hate to Yeah, and I hate to say it because we don't want it to it's already been talked about, but really, it's like, is he or isn't he? Like, the first shoe to drop's gonna be AJ Brown. Once we find out what they're doing here with AJ Brown, is he staying? Is he going or
He's
whatever?
staying.
I mean,
Oh
to me,
god,
that's really the first shoe to drop.
Gar, the shoe's on the floor. AJ Brown's not going anywhere. This is all nonsense. This is all
Okay,
media-driven nonsense.
okay.
And I'm sorry, Gary, you're in sports media, and I hate to disparage what is going on, but there's just not enough to talk about. So it's always gonna be AJ Brown, AJ Brown, AJ Brown, AJ Brown. I just went back. I read everything that they talked about AJ Brown as far as what he was doing, and there were like a couple of social media things. That's it. Like, so much of the AJ Brown story is contrived and made up by your local sports media, which then drives the national sports media because they think it's gonna be a big trade story that they can get in front of and be the first guy to talk about. It's just not there. The guy Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are best friends. They're still best friends. AJ Brown likes working in Philadelphia. Was he frustrated a couple of times and, said something stupid? Yes. Yes, but he's a wide receiver in the National Football League. They are, if nothing else, emotional and a little self-centered. So he really thinks if he gets more
And
touches, they're gonna win games. Like, he's not going
right.
he's under a ridiculous contract. The Eagles are gonna ask too much for him. He's not going anywhere. That's it. He's staying.
Yeah, and you know what, Nick, and Nick, you made a point that I like too. Like, I'll just say this: we'll see. Having said that, though, having said that, like, we're never gonna hear about this in the media. Maybe we will, but would you be shocked? Because I wouldn't be shocked if, because this is what I would do, Nick. If Jalen Hurts calls him up and say, "Hey, man, like, let's just talk it out." Because at the end of the day, I got a Super Bowl ring because of you, and you got a Super Bowl ring because of me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, like, so and it's amazing when you're at odds with somebody, when somebody picks up that phone and you guys just talk, and maybe you can't agree to maybe you don't come to an agreement, but maybe it's amazing when you talk it out. When you talk something out, it's amazing what can happen,
Yeah.
right? Like, so it wouldn't I think at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts knows how important AJ Brown is to his success on the
Yeah.
football field.
Of course.
And it wouldn't shock me if in private, Jalen Hurts made a phone call.
Yeah. Not only is that the sentiment of most of the locker room, like, they know they went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1 to no small part of AJ Brown being there, right? He's a huge part of the reason that they did what they did and are doing what they're doing. Everybody knows that. Also, from what I read, everybody loves having him in the locker room. Now they lose a game and he's a little salty. They're all salty. So I don't think he's a negative impact on the locker room. I don't think people are sick of him complaining. Nope, I don't think any of that. I think these guys love him, and I think they know that his frustrations are their frustrations. He's just saying it. Should he be saying it? Probably not. But it still rings true to them. So he's not bringing down morale. He's not doing any of that. So I'm not
Again.
I'm not entertaining any of this AJ Brown trade stuff. I'm just not entertaining it. You're a better
Yeah.
team with him, regardless of the money. You're just a better team with him. So that's it for me.
Yeah.
They trade him. I
And
expect
look,
not to win.
and I wouldn't go that far, but I'll say this. Against the Niners, he had a bad game. But at the end of the day, Nick, if people know, can see Nick right now, Nick's wearing a Super Bowl hat. Um, look, AJ Brown played in 2 Super Bowls with the Eagles. He caught 2 touchdowns in those, like, a touchdown in each Super Bowl.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see. But hopefully they could get this figured out, and hopefully AJ Brown is an Eagle next season. The only thing I'll say, Nick, at the same time, the Eagles like to get rid of people 1 year too early than 1 year too late. How much of that was the hamstring or the knee? Um, uh, you know, obviously they're looking into that, but
Yeah.
we'll see if you're right. We'll see if he's an
I
Eagle
wouldn't
this season.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last year because I know the cap hit gets way lighter. And like this year is the bad year for the cap hit on AJ Brown. So like after this, if
Right.
he's not here, I mean I wouldn't be horribly surprised if he wasn't here in, for the 2027 season. But I am 100% convinced that he's here. And to your point, if you think that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown have not spoken since they were eliminated from the playoffs, you're just you're either wrong or you're stupid. One of those two. Like the fact like to think that these guys have not spoken already, they have. They've spoken. Like
Right.
probably the next day. Like they are not especially people younger than us. Like you and I, if you and I had it out one day, we could go months without talking to each other, right? We got like I've had friends I haven't talked to for years, and not even because we weren't getting along,
Right.
just because we just didn't talk. Like in today's day and
Right.
age, people younger than us, even a half a generation younger than us, They do not do that. They don't just write a guy off and never talk to him again. They talk it out. It's a way more common thing for younger guys than it is for our generation. Like we're just like we hold grudges and we bury
Right.
our feelings deep, deep down, like you're supposed to. They don't do that. They talk about their stuff and they get it out there. And that's why AJ Brown tweeting his feelings, that's normal for him. That's what he's been raised on, is to express yourself. So those guys have definitely been in contact. The coaching staff has been in contact. They probably talked to AJ and Jalen Hurts together about Sean Mannion. So I don't think
Right.
I don't think I'm going into this season with super high hopes about this offense and super high
Uh,
expectations, and only because I probably have to, because the Flyers are awful and the Sixers are awful, and I don't know what the Phillies are going to bring me, but we're going to find out soon enough. But they're probably going to be awful, and all I have to hope for is that the Eagles come out and if the offense is fixed and they make a couple of the right moves on defense, I think they can still have a top 10 defense, and I think they can get back to offensive prowess and really, like, with creative offense that I think Mannion brings you, I think they can really, really do something cool. So we'll see.
so, but to that, Nick, do you
Yeah.
think next week? Do you think in their mind, like, do you expect to see some splashy kind of free agent moves that, gets the fan base excited? Or do you think, what, their top priority above all else is, again, saving your money, getting ready to extend the guy like a Jalen Carter. And then, down the road, you got Quinion Mitchell and you got Cooper DeJean. Cause like you just, you're going to lose people a little bit here. You can't do it all. Right. So like,
Yeah.
how do you think they're approaching this offseason mentally?
I
The
don't
front
think
office, Howie
I don't
Roseman.
yeah, I don't think they're going in looking to save money, right? I think Howie Roseman every year wants to utilize the cap space he has to win that year. With the knowledge that he's got to be smart about how much he's spending because of future stuff, but I don't think he would leave money sitting on the table on purpose just because of next year. I think he's got ideas for next year about who to extend and who to renegotiate a contract on and who to kind of get out of a contract with. Like he's got some plans for the future, but the cap space he has now, I think he plans on using, knowing that your window is only open so wide, right? You saw it with the Chiefs,
Right.
right? They did a bunch of winning and now they are toast. Like the Chiefs might not even make the playoffs next year. Like they didn't make the playoffs this year. They may need a total rebuild. They may end up with a new head coach. Like Andy Reid might be like, this is enough of this. Like he's been around the league for a long time. Uh, I think the Eagles, I don't think they're going to make big splashy moves. I think if they can hang on to Jalen Phillips, if they can bring in, a Mekhi Becton, Sayamalu, Zach Ertz, and I think on the offensive side, I think they're really just like a healthy offensive line and a tight end away from being a good offense. As long as the OC and the creative part of things pans out. The defense, you've got a couple of
Yeah.
guys that just aren't, you don't know where Makuba is in coming back. So you have to probably keep Reed Blankenship. You probably have to keep Jalen Phillips. And then after that, you got to get really creative with dollar signs as far as your defense. So you're probably going to have to draft a young corner, probably in the first round. Then you're going to have to look at your tight end in the second round and then offensive line for the rest. Um, your bench is really good on your defensive line, but you do have to start talking extensions or new contracts with those guys, both Davis um,
Jalen Carter.
and Jalen Carter. Right. So I think that they're going to make very kind of they're going to make moves where you go, oh, cool. Or, oh, yeah, that's what I thought they
Yeah,
were
and
gonna
the
do. Like, I think they're gonna make
and
sensible
the
moves, but
other thing. Go ahead.
I don't think they're gonna do anything where you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how he pulled that off." I don't think it's one of those years.
And the other thing too that is gonna kinda impact Eagles down the road is you're talking about the Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs made a move earlier this week, I believe, where they sent their top cornerback, to the Rams. The Rams gave them a first round pick.
Yeah.
And, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of contract or something there. I mean, anytime you see a trade like that for a first round pick,
Yeah.
they usually don't do the trade with the same contract.
Yeah, trade
So
is
that
fine.
could impact Quinyon Mitchell. That could impact Quinyon Mitchell down the road. And then obviously, I think they want Blankenship back, but they always have a price in mind. And if they lose Blankenship, they better make safety a priority real quick because
Yeah.
Makuba, like he's coming off an injury, at least so they wouldn't have much there either.
Yeah.
Um,
Or you
so
just
so
I
we'll
mean, if
see. But Nick, if you don't mind,
yeah.
go ahead.
So the only thing I think about Blankenship is if he leaves, you can probably just go get Gardner Johnson back again. You know what I mean? Like he comes in, you go to Super Bowl. He leaves, you don't go to the Super Bowl. I feel like that guy. Now I don't want him. I don't want him teaching the next generation. But Makuba seems pretty well built as far as safeties go. I wonder if you could pair those two up. If you can't get Reed, who's going to have a high price tag, the intangibles with CJ Gardner Johnson are that he's kind of a pain in the ass, I guess, right? So like if you bring him in, you're like, okay, he's a pain in the ass, but he's a pain in the ass that we are used to at this point. Like bring him in, win some football games, and maybe as he gets older, he starts to kind of calm down a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, and the only I'll say on the O line because you mentioned Sayamalu and you mentioned Becton, like, I don't see Becton happening. I thought Sayamalu could happen maybe a month ago, but remember now they have a new O line coach, so he could be looking for a whole different thing than Stoutland,
Yeah.
and what he wants in his players.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't expect the Eagles to make any kind of splashes on the O line in free agency, but I do think the Eagles they could load up in the draft with O linemen because then this guy gets the chance to draft his kind of guy. But back to free agency, Nick, we're gonna take the trip down memory lane. I
Okay.
love taking trips down memory lane.
Sometimes.
And I'm gonna throw some free agents out there that the Eagles got.
All right.
And just kinda like what's your memory when it happened? Because just when I say these names, kind of what comes to mind for you, and I'll say what kind of comes to mind for me.
I'm
And
scared, but go ahead.
we're gonna kick this one off with a banger.
Okay.
And we're gonna go with Terrell Eldorado Owens. When he became an Eagle, Nick, what were you thinking when he became an Eagle? Where were you? What were you thinking when the Eagles signed T.O.?
So
I
that
should
would have
say traded for T.O.
Yeah. So that was 2003, or was that before the
Yeah, going
2002
into
season? It's before the 2002 season, right?
that was like I'll just say this. So they lose. That was 2004 season. Like they lost that NFC title game to Tampa. Everybody knew the Eagles needed a superstar wide receiver.
Yeah.
The next year they lost the NFC title game to Carolina. Everybody knew the Eagles needed a superstar wide receiver, and finally they got him. What was your
Right.
thought when they got him?
I
When the news broke, Nick, the news broke.
So the news broke, and I think it was like late afternoon when the news came out because I was sitting in a chemistry lab in college and
Mhm.
I thought someone died because I heard someone scream. We're in a science building. It's a brand new, beautiful science
Mhm.
building. They just got done finished building, right? And I hear a scream. And I go outside and a couple other people. It was later in the day, so like there weren't a lot of people in the building. So a bunch of people kind of stick their heads out the door to see what's going on. And then we hear kind of like excited talking and rambling, and we go down the hall. One of our professors must have just been on his computer or listening to the radio or something. And we're like, oh my God, are you all right? And he was like jumping up and down, freaking out about TEO. And it actually took us a few minutes to like get the information out of him, like what is going on. And he told us, and the other people were like, oh, remember we're in a science building. Most of them were like, we don't care about this. We're going back to work. I was like, wait a minute. Are we talking about the same Terrell? Is there another Terrell Owens? Are we talking about the same guy? Are we talking about the guy from the
Mhm.
49ers, Terrell Owens? Is that who we're talking about? I I couldn't believe it. I was astounded that the Eagles had gone and done this because they had given us so many years of Pinkston and Thrash and just like garbage wide receivers that like we just put up with. Freddie Mitchell, the best of them, which is not saying, well, it's like a low bar to set, but I was astounded. I was so surprised. And then it took me a couple weeks to realize, like, oh God, we got like a real wide receiver, the likes of which I had never really seen as a football fan, because I started really watching football post kind of Mike Quick, Randall Cunningham era, so like I never
Mhm.
really
Yep.
got
Yep.
a great wide receiver. And now I'm spoiled. Now I'm spoiled with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good one. That is a great one. Maybe
Yeah.
the second best one.
Yeah. So if kind of similar to your story, Nick, I was in college. Um, from what I remember, I had one of those 3-hour classes at night, right?
Yep.
I had one of those 3-hour classes at night. I'm walking to the class, and my oldest, I have 4 brothers. My oldest brother calls me, and I pick up the phone, and he goes to me, he goes, turn on sports talk radio. And I said, I'm walking to class. And he said, and my brother who called me, Nick, Eagles, he was an Eagles season ticket holder. So he was at that 02 NFC title game, 03 NFC title game when they lost. And, like, it was almost as if that call was yesterday. All he said to me was, we got him. We got him. That's all he kept saying.
Yeah.
We got him.
Yep.
And all I said was, no way. Because when my brother said we got him, I knew exactly who he was talking about.
Oh.
Exactly. Right. So I said, no way. I still think I went to that class, and that 3-hour class seemed like 6 hours
Yeah.
because
Tough one.
I just wanted to go back. Because I just wanted to go back to the dorm, filled with Eagles fans, and celebrate the moment, right? And
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough, Nick. I was interning with the Eagles. To's first year in Philly, I was at his first mini camp. I was with him in the locker room. I said to him, his first day at mini camp, I said, "Do you have any jitters?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Jitters." He goes, "I just see a whole lot of green." And he was so excited to be an Eagle and that at that time to play with McNabb. And that whole season, I know they lost the Super Bowl. I still say if he was healthy, they win that Super Bowl. But that's still probably my favorite Eagles team, Nick. It was just a magical ride, and
Yeah.
he was unbelievable. The next one I'm going to throw at you, Nick, is Nnamdi Asomugha.
Uh-huh.
What was your reaction, and give me your take on that?
So where I was working for the moving company at the time. And I remember we were delivering a tractor trailer worth of stuff, and it was nighttime when it was dark when the news broke. And I remember it was cold and it was rainy, and it was just the shittiest of days. And again, we had not, like, free agency started. I don't remember. I think it might have been the first day of free agency. And we just hadn't heard anything all day, and we were like, shit, like, we're gonna miss out. Like, he didn't get anybody. This is terrible. And we're already out, like, breaking our backs, unloading a truck, furniture, and treadmills. And I remember I was carrying some kind of exercise equipment around this lady's house to come in through the basement, which is always fun. And it's raining, and we're slipping and falling with this thing, and just it's a night. I'm having a nightmare day. And the Eagles did nothing in free agency. And then I take this piece of equipment in the house. I'm in a bad mood. I walk onto the trailer. Another guy, also named Nick, is in the truck, and he's like, "We got Asomugha! We got Asomugha! We got Asomugha!" And now we're jumping and dancing, and the customer's wondering why we're not doing any work. And we're like, "We got Asomugha!" And the customer did not know what that meant.
Yep.
And we were having a party. Didn't work out great, but we were having a party about that one. And I don't remember, was DRC the next day or 2 days later that they made that trade?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it was after. Yeah, I want to say it was after. That was during the lockout year. So they really went heavy. That, I mean, it was like one after another after another. They signed
they were
Colin
slamming it.
Jenkins.
Yeah.
And they really were. And then, Vince Young, I mean, they Ronnie Brown, I mean,
Oh, that was the
like,
dream team.
that was the dream team, yeah. And basically they traded for DRC. I gotta say it was before Nnamdi, but my story with Nnamdi is basically I was, I work in sports media. I was leaving work and I'm watching the TV as I'm leaving work, and they have an update on Asamoah, and they said that it was basically down to the Raiders, I believe. No, he was with the Raiders. The Cowboys and another team, maybe the Ravens, and then there was a mystery team, and nobody knew who that mystery team was. They just said they said a mystery team has jumped into the mix, and that's all we knew. And I leave work, I go home. At that time, I lived close to work, and then my buddy calls me up, who's a diehard Eagles fan, and he goes, "We got Namdi," and I'm like, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And Nick, I honestly thought that when they got Namdi, that was our version, if you will, of what Deion Sanders did for the Cowboys, right? Like the
Mhm.
Cowboys ended up winning titles. Or, one of my favorite Eagle players of all time, my favorite cornerback of all time is Eric Allen, right? Like I thought Namdi was going to have that kind of effect. Eric Allen, who's now in the Hall of Fame. So, and it just never worked out. But yeah, in that moment, there was just so much excitement that he was going to be the missing piece on a defense to finally, at that time, get us to a Super Bowl, because it was certainly a while.
Yep.
And then back to the TO, I was at Eagles minicamp, TO's first minicamp, and I was like, pinch me. I'm standing next to Merrill Reese, and a who's who, Philly media, Derek Gunn, and I'm just watching TO go through drills, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yep. So incredible. All right,
Next one, Nick. Next one.
Give me one more. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you give it to me.
You
Go
want
ahead.
more?
Yeah, I want one more.
How about we go Ricky Watters?
Ricky Watters. Ricky Watters was kind of in that area where I was really just starting to get into football. So I don't have a great like reaction to him being traded. I know that my uncles were really into it. They were loving it. I know that Brian loved it because he talked about it for like a week and a half.
Yes.
But I know it didn't work out.
There's no bigger Ricky Watters fan than Brian Dwyer, and maybe myself. I mean, it's debatable, but I think there's Brian Dwyer absolutely loves Ricky Watters. As do I. But Brian takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. I mean, I get it looking back, I understand, but I think the outcome overshadows any memory I really can conjure on him getting brought in. Like the outcome was just so disappointing and lackluster. I don't think that, I mean, besides Nnamdi Asomugha, I don't know that there's a more disappointing free agent signing than Ricky Watters, because you really expected Ricky Watters came in and you thought he was going to take you to the promised land, right? T.O., you went to the Super Bowl with T.O. So like he kind of I don't really blame T.O. I don't even blame T.O.'s injury for not winning that Super Bowl. He had like a historic Super Bowl game that day, coming back from that injury. So like I really don't blame T.O. Ricky Watters, like you really expected something special when he came on board, and you just got something gross, something not special. Like you just got the same shit, different day.
All right. Well, I completely disagree, but you know what? We're gonna bring that back up when Brian's on here.
Yeah.
I completely disagree with that. I disagree with that take, and I'll throw you some Ricky Watters tidbits when Brian's on here, because he was a great Eagle, and that's okay. But how about this, Nick? Of these two names, and I think I know where you're gonna go with this, but I'm gonna give you two names. Who would you prefer, or who do you have better memories of?
Okay.
The two names: Asante Samuel.
Okay.
Malcolm Jenkins.
Oh, who would I prefer, and who do I have better memories of? That's the easiest question on the planet, and the answer is Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins put a guy to sleep in the Super Bowl that we won. Like so I have a wall of Eagles. So right here are a bunch of Phillies pictures, but on the wall right over here are way more Eagles pictures, and a lot of them are like iconic plays, like Nick Foles catching the Philly special, and then there's Saquon's reverse hurdle, David Akers kicking a field goal, Dawkins going fully horizontal against the Giants, Sheldon Brown at the game you went to, putting Reggie Bush in the dirt maybe forever. Like, I don't think anybody's seen Reggie Bush since. So the
Right.
next picture I'm getting for this wall is Malcolm Jenkins. Just absolutely, and what was that? Brandon Cooks, right? With the Patriots.
Right, yes, Brandon
There
Cooks,
is
you're correct.
there is
Yep.
one picture. It's framed. I found it online. I gotta find it again. And it's of that hit, the beautiful framed picture, and it's autographed by Malcolm Jenkins with a quick quote that says, "Sweet dreams." And I want this picture for this wall in the worst way. Like, I don't even care if
Wow.
I have to print it myself and hang it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I need
Yeah.
this. Malcolm Jenkins came in here and ran that defensive backfield the way I don't know anybody has before. Brian Dawkins was such a fun player to watch, and he was out of his mind, but he was kind of a singular player, right? He was so incredible. He just did what he did. Malcolm Jenkins ran that defensive backfield, and he ran it with guys.
Yep.
Like, I think he made other guys better. Thank you, Kel. Yes. Kelly came in with a we all we got. We all we need, dear.
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is Malcolm Jenkins. I hope you don't disagree, because it would destroy my opinion of you.
No, I don't disagree, but I got a really great story on that one. So I was walking into work, for the television company, sports media company that I worked for,
Mhm.
and I was walking into work that day, and one of my coworkers at that time, Nick, was Brian Dawkins.
Oh,
And when I was talking to Brian Dawkins, and when news broke that they got Malcolm Jenkins, I was actually disappointed, because at that time there was talk that the Eagles had interest in Jarius Byrd, who was a safety. There was another safety, TJ Ward, I believe, who were basically number 1 and 2. They were number 1 and 2
Yeah.
on the free agency, top free agents when it came to safeties. Everybody knew the Eagles needed a safety. And at the time, the Eagles got Malcolm Jenkins, who they converted to safety, but was a corner for the Saints.
Right.
And I actually said to Brian Dawkins, I said, Doc, I said, they no TJ Ward. And he looked at me and he goes, Malcolm Jenkins is a really, really good football player. He's a really, really good football player. And he goes, do not be disappointed in that signing of Malcolm Jenkins. He's a really, really good football player. And look, nobody's perfect, but once again, Brian Dawkins was right? I mean, like, Malcolm Jenkins, basically, he was our Brian Dawkins for that time he was with an Eagle, and he was such a leader. And yeah, I mean, they don't win that Super Bowl without Malcolm Jenkins. He was amazing. And I will say this, Nick, Asante Samuel, when he came to Philly, especially that first year when he came to Philly,
Yeah.
he was awesome. And I'll just say this, like, you and I, that was the year they went and played in the NFC title game against the Cardinals.
Yep.
And you and I were there together watching that game.
Yes, we were.
And
we can
like,
talk about that part.
we could, but they you know, Asante Samuel was a big reason why they got to that NFC title game.
Sure.
Against the Giants in the divisional round. He came up with an interception. And in the NFC title game, they should have won that game. Unfortunately, Larry Fitzgerald, I think, got 3 touchdowns in the first half. But like, Asante Samuel was also a big time Eagle when he came to, especially that first year he was in Philly. He was unbelievable.
Yeah. Is that former Philadelphia Eagle, Larry Fitzgerald? Did we
I
get Larry Fitzgerald?
wish.
Yeah. Did we have him for a year? Who did we bring
No,
in for a year? What big
no, I
name
had
was
him on Madden, but we never had him.
we wanted him. Yeah, listen, Asante, I loved Asante Samuel. I don't want to get that twisted. Asante Samuel used to put on, every once in a while, he would put a hit on somebody that would make me stand up and yell out, right? So
Mhm.
he was really good in coverage. He was a tremendous
He was a
player.
ball hawk. He
He
was
was
a
a
ball hawk.
really,
Yeah.
really good corner. I really liked Asante Samuel. I really did. Malcolm Jenkins is a whole different level. Malcolm Jenkins
Oh
was
yeah.
like I felt spoiled because we went from Brian Dawkins and then we ended up with a Malcolm Jenkins, and I feel like it was really close to how it was close how good they were. It was a close comparison. Like a little, I mean, different, right? The intensity of Dawkins was incredible. The on-field intelligence and ability to lead others with Malcolm Jenkins was also incredible. Like I don't if you asked me if I wanted any other safeties ever in the league, if I had my pick of those two, I would take those two. I would take one and then two,
Oh, you got yeah,
and everybody else is down the
and
road.
you gotta remember that they did have a short period of time. Let's not forget. Like I know Brian Dawkins is in the Hall of Fame. I know he retired an Eagle. I was fortunate enough to be at his retirement ceremony in Philly when they played the Giants. But let's not have about this reaction. Talk about a reaction. When I say to you, breaking news: Brian Dawkins is a Denver Bronco.
Broke my heart. It broke my heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it broke his heart. Broke
Oh,
his heart.
I hated and then I would watch Bronco games just to see him play, and I hated every second of it. It just felt wrong. It he was a guy that should have retired in a green jersey. Like and he never should
Yeah,
have worn another jersey. I hated every second of that. And I get it. You want to let go of a guy a year early rather than a year late, but they were about 2 years early. And yeah, I hate that. That
yeah. I think And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nick, and I could be wrong, I think that was a Joe Banner move. And then they let Dawkins go, and then they drafted Daquan Jarrett out of Temple in the second round. He didn't pan out. I mean, they did go through some times there where it was like one safety after another. It just didn't pan out, and then thankfully Malcolm Jenkins got him back on track.
yeah, that I mean, we have to end on that one because Brian Dawkins leaving is ugh, gross. Is gross.
Yeah,
I think you'll get some middle of the road, good free agent stuff from Howie and the Eagles this year. I think you'll have a few things that you scratch your head about, mainly on the offensive side of things, because they're moving in a really different direction with Sean Mannion. I think that they'll kind of there'll be some head scratchers and there'll be like, oh, that's different. Like, oh, that's weird. But number one concern, Gary, number one concern,
yeah.
they absolutely cannot sign Matt Pryor. Cannot sign Matt Pryor. He's got to go. They got to let him go.
Matt Pryor will not be back. We'll find out hopefully next week a little bit of what their plan is. I'll just say this, Nick. I'm sure there's some stuff they want to do. Maybe they could do it, maybe they can't. But I know this. I know they won the Super Bowl and then they come back and they lose in the first round at home. You lose at home to the Niners who were beat up. I mean, that cannot sit well with them. That could not sit well with Gloria Roseman. And usually when they're not, when they're embarrassed, and I think they were embarrassed, they want to come back strong, and they usually have good off seasons. So we'll see. Like again, I guess what 2 years ago now, they got absolutely whipped by Tampa Bay, and then they signed Saquon Barkley. So they're not happy with that Niners loss. I know that.
No.
And because that's not what they had in mind when coming off a Super Bowl, to lose at home to the Niners like that. So yeah, we're gonna see how they approach free agency here. But I think they want to do some things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they'll come in with a chip on their shoulder this year. I think the thing they really needed to do on offense was get a creative mind in there. I know that you can't expect a guy like Kevin Patullo to learn how to call plays and run an offense in 1 year. Yes, he should have been given the opportunity longer, but not here. This is not the team and not the city for that. So you need a guy that's going to be really creative. Get him started off as the OC with your head coach in place so you don't make a Chip Kelly mistake, and they got to have a chip on the shoulder. And that's the bottom line because I said so.
And look, I don't, we don't know. We don't know how good Mannion's going to be. I got a good feeling about it, but we'll see.
Yep.
But I will say this, Nick. There's no doubt on the offensive side of the ball as we get ready for free agency next week. Mannion's going to have a say in this.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
he's going to absolutely, and he should. He's gonna have a say. He's going to have a say in this.
Yeah. Your OC and your defensive coordinators both have a say when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft. I mean, Vic Fangio is not going to be in the draft room because it's a little late at night. He's getting a little older. He wants to go home and go to bed. But he'll tell them what he wants. He'll have somebody there to like, hey, we could really use this guy. So, and I think Howie Roseman's really good at not being too, what's the word I'm looking for? Like he's not too sensitive to take direction from others, right? He's not so full of himself that he thinks he knows the answer and he's the smartest guy in the room. He knows to listen to the people around him that know football. And I think between him and Sirianni and their coaching staff and their scouts, I think they're going to make some good moves in the draft. I have to trust them now because they've been doing a great job the last couple of years. So I trust some good draft moves. I trust some safe and normal free agent signings. Some guys are coming back. Most guys are not. I think we'll be okay. And Matt Pryor can't come back.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see if they do something that gives us that big reaction. I do know this. When we talk next Friday, we're gonna have something to talk about because they'll make some kind of move.
If we wait until
They're
Friday.
They're not gonna be quiet all week.
Right. So I guess as Monday kind of comes around and we start getting some news, once Wednesday, I guess we can wait till Friday. Yeah, we'll wait till Friday. We'll take notes.
Yeah.
We'll take notes. We'll come ready.
Yeah.
Come ready to go.
Let's
and see
wait
what
till
happens.
Friday, and then we'll do a recap of the week, and
Absolutely.
hopefully it's something that we're excited about and we feel good about versus like, hey, we lose to the Niners at home and get embarrassed, and this is how we respond first week
Right.
of free agency.
I don't like it.
So, all right, let's talk next Friday. Hopefully we get what we want out of this free agent week and the start of the season, and everybody get to Nino's, spend a little extra, get another slice, get a Sicilian slice, and everybody pray for Margaret. Hopefully she's home and healthy and happy soon, and we can get some pizza and let her yell at us some more. Follow Nino's Pizza on Instagram. Follow Kick Out at 2 on Instagram, and we'll be on YouTube soon. Again,
Go Birds.
go Birds.